Shinzo Abe says his Abenomics, which is a combination of ultra-loose monetary policy and big fiscal spending, has resulted in strong growth and solid business confidence. He's slated to win by a landslide. This increasing gap between the haves and have-nots, it doesn't seem to be denting his popularity.
No, I think one of the reasons he called the snap election was about the tax hike that is slated to happen over the near future. However, the election itself has not been so much about the economy. The parties are taking different positions on the tax hike, with the Hope Party, which is a new entrant in this election, promising to stop the hike in the consumption tax because she fears that it will dampen consumption. But the election itself hasn't been so much about the economy, actually. It's been about the new players, the new opposition parties that have been formed right after Prime Minister Abe dissolved the House and called for a snap election. So the LDP is looking strong in this election, not so much because of its economic policy and because voters are satisfied. It's rather because the opposition is actually quite divided. We have a number of opposition parties and we have single-member districts. Japan's electoral system is comprised mostly of single-member districts, which means that in a district, if the LDP candidate wins, one of the reasons the LDP candidates are going to win is because there are more opposition parties. And those opposition parties, if they collectively got together and formed one party like the LDP, they might be able to win. But actually, they're all competing as separate candidates. So that means that the LDP's victory is virtually guaranteed. So I have to say it's sort of not so much about the LDP's economic success, because I think that it hasn't really been such a successful strategy, the Prime Minister's economic policies over the last few years.
So what do people think of Shinzo Abe?
So people think he's a solid leader. People in Japan, I think, are happy with the way he's been dealing with the US President, Donald Trump. In fact, the newspapers in Japan talk about how the President Trump is going to be visiting Japan next month to meet with Prime Minister Abe, which is sort of a foregone. They're sort of displaying their ideas that it's going to be Prime Minister Abe, that it's almost a foregone conclusion. Abe has managed the Prime Minister has managed the relationship with the President very well. Japanese newspapers are also reporting that when the President visits Japan, he'll be meeting with victims of abductions by North Korea that happened between 1977 and 1983. And this is also seen, I think, by Japanese people as this is a signal that Abe has a very strong relationship with President Trump. And given that the US provides security for Japan and the US-Japan alliance is important for Japan and its future and its national security, I think voters like that aspect of the Prime Minister.
Is there a parallel that can be drawn between the fact that here you have this leader who projects himself, a nationalist who projects himself as a strong man, who's slated again for this landslide win on Sunday, just as in China, another strong man is cementing his power at the party Congress, Xi Jinping?
So I'm not sure about the parallels between the two countries. I mean, Japan is a democracy and has been since the end of the Second World War. So I don't want to draw too many comparisons between these two strong men, as you put it. I would say that Abe has been helped by institutions in Japan that have facilitated him sort of accumulating power over the last few years. So traditionally, in Prime Minister Abe's party, the LDP, leaders were actually fairly weak, and they were sort of put in power by the members of the party themselves, and the members of the party could withdraw their support at any time. But and then they would also have to contest their seats every 3 years. So leaders of the LDP, sometimes they would win the election and they would gain a popular mandate, but then they also would have to contest their seat as party leader after having won the election. However, in 2015, there was a leadership election for the leader of the LDP, and Abe was Prime Minister at the time, and no other candidates came out to contest the seat for Prime Minister Abe, so he just won handily. And that was actually the first time in a number of years that has happened. So the Prime Minister is accumulating power within the party, but because Japan is a democracy, I'm sort of hesitant to make parallels with the Chinese leader.
Amy Catalinac, many thanks for joining us from New York City.
Thank you.
Amy Catalinac of NYU.